Instead of trying to fit into the industry, I took the industry and turned it over and made it my own. That's what allowed Abbey Creek to be the hip-hop winery of Northwest. That's how we were allowed to kind of do things my way. Go out of your norm. So many of us say we want change or we want something different, and your actions and your words don't match.
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 315, and this week we are throwing it back to episode 222. It has been a busy summer for me, and instead of stressing myself out this week, it was a holiday week, I just wanted to kind of throw it back to our great guest, episode 222 guest, Bertony Faustin, and he is going to be talking about how he turned pain into opportunity and became Oregon's first Black winemaker. There's a lot in this episode that you guys are going to get to hear, so I'm just really happy that if this is your first time listening to this episode, congrats. If you heard this one already, then still listen to it again. I really think there's a lot of gems that we can take from going back, rewinding, and hearing what our guests have to say, and then thinking about what can I take from hearing this man share his story of turning pain into purpose. There's so much in this episode that I think you all will get out of it. And here's one of the quotes from the episode that I really enjoyed. It is, why don't you do what you love and find a way to make you money? Now, if that's not something that I know a lot of you have been thinking about, I don't know what is. I know that's something that has been on my mind. So definitely, please make sure you listen all the way to the end. And I have a surprise for you. So this is actually the first Dreams and Drive episode ever that I recorded the conversation in video. So I normally do all my interviews via Skype, and I do it call only. But for some reason, Bertony convinced me that we needed to do this in video. And I said, you know what? I'm going to record it. So if you want to see the actual recording of this interview going down, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/videos. That's dreamsanddrive.com/videos. Or you can just go to YouTube and search for the Dreams and Drive channel and go to episode 222 and watch it there. I would love to know what you all think. This is my first time doing it, but if you enjoy it, I will definitely try to do more of them. I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. I have a few more video projects that I have in the cut that I haven't released yet, but getting your feedback on this will definitely be an encouragement to me to just keep on experimenting, keep on finding ways to get you guys these stories in the formats and on the platforms that you want them to be. Now, if you enjoy this episode, please make sure that you share it. As always, you can find us across the board on social media. We're at Dreams and Drive on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to join the Dream Driver crew and get our weekly newsletter, The Keys, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. And wherever you're listening, please make sure that you are subscribed so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. Leaving a review is also appreciated as well. All right, so let's get into the episode. Hi, Bertony. Welcome to Dreams and Drive.
Hello, Raina. How you doing?
I am good. I'm super excited to talk to you today. And it's funny because as I was prepping for this interview, I couldn't remember how I even stumbled across your name and the work that you're doing. I just think I was randomly on the internet one day and just stumbled across an article of something, and that's how we're here.
Nice. I actually appreciate those type of connections more than anything because it was on your time, and you found it out on your own. So.
Yeah, I think the first thing that drew me in was definitely that you were a Black male, right, in the winemaking industry, but also you were in Oregon. And I'm just like, wait, Black people live in Oregon? Is it Oregon or Oregon, first of all?
It's Oregon.
Okay, Oregon, okay. I'm like, wait, Black people live in Oregon? What? And you're from Brooklyn? So let's start there. Let's talk about who was young Bertony as growing up in Brooklyn, New York, Haitian American family. What was life like? What was inspiring you as a kid?
Well, as a kid, and you could probably attest, you take everything for granted. And the hindsight as an adult, my inspiration were my parents. We were latchkey kids, so there was 5 of us. So you went to school on your own, you came home on your own, you almost didn't even really see your folks, because they were doing those multiple jobs or grinding. I say working from can't to can't see in the morning till you can't see at night.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I never really truly realized the influence or the inspiration that my parents and what they were doing, for us back then. So that's another tough one. I guess I didn't really dream. Every day was kind of living that dream, I should say. You know how it is when especially Caribbean families, you don't realize you're broke or poor until somebody actually tells you, oh, y'all ain't got shit, do you? But so I never had these big lofty aspirations of anything. Hindsight, and it was part of me being broken. Always striving to keep doing something more because you felt you weren't good enough. I joke, in the Caribbean family, if you're not a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, you're a failure to the family. So kind of that's pretty much how I grew up, always trying to do better. It didn't matter what I was doing. I always felt like there was something better to do, or I could do better than that. I was always very creative. I was the guy who didn't need to read a lot. I can see something and take it on. I was the tinkerer. I would take stuff apart. But none of that was really celebrated. It was I go try to follow the straight and narrow, and then the creative takes over. Go and follow the straight and narrow, and then the creative. And honestly, I've gone to so much schooling because I would do like 2 or 3 years at a university to be an engineer, a doctor, a nurse, or whatever. And then like year 3, I'm like, no, the hell with this. I'm doing me. I'm going to fly helicopters. I don't care, kind of mentality. So, but I've always had this creative bone in me, whether it's writing or music, et cetera. But it's always had to be downplayed, as a kid. Mm-hmm. No, that makes tons of sense. Honestly, my folks, my dad's passed, but my mom really doesn't know the impact of what I do. Because we never drank, so it's kind of funny. Even the other day, I get a call from one of my sisters. She was reading the Food and Wine magazine, and saw an article about me in the back. She was like, "Well, how come you didn't say nothing?" Exactly. So no, so it's kind of funny, but I totally feel you. It feels like it's La La Land that we're living in. The largest is again you would wake up, they were gone. They're coming home after you come back from school. It's just kind of funny. As Haitians, we eat plantains or banan, and like my mom's biggest gripe was, how come you don't have at least a plantain boiling for me? Kind of thing. But just that sheer, they didn't love those jobs, but they loved their 5 kids. You know, kind of thing, and they went out day in and day out. And I guess I never really heard them complain. Especially my dad, where when he came to the States, white folks called him boat people. Black Americans actually called him Uncle Tom because they thought he was kissing ass. But then even his fellow Haitians, they shunned him because they thought that he made it and wasn't giving back. So my dad, correct. So my dad decided to own who he was a long, long time ago. He did yoga before it was cool. He was doing yoga in the 70s, shit like that. Always kind of against the grain stuff, that you wouldn't think or expect, of him to do. That's what I'm saying. No, and my dad wasn't a little dude. He was 6'1", 230. He even ran marathons and wore those Kenyan shorts. But again, well, he shouldn't have been. But he decided this is what I'm trying to do. So, So from New York, I went to school in Florida, and then I did a couple of years in North Carolina. But in '99, I was like, you know what? I'm going west. It was just that point. I knew there was nowhere in the middle I wanted to stop. So I was going to Cali. That was my destiny. I had no idea what city or anything, but I thought Cali. I drove through. But I ended up in Oregon because I got a job here. One of my many careers, I was working for anesthesiology as an assistant and got a job at a teaching hospital out in Oregon. I looked on the map and they actually had a hoop team right in town. So I figured, all right, it can't be that horrible. I'll be there for a minute and then work my way down. But that's kind of what got me here. What kept me here is I ended up meeting my wife here. So that's why the dreams of going to Cali never went to fruition. Yeah, so I always start off with it was part tragedy and part opportunity. The tragedy was my dad passing in '07. I immediately felt, you know what, I wasn't living up to that legacy. Like I said, you take it for granted when you're in it. But after he passed, it was one, I think about that immigrant story and almost all immigrants. Imagine you as an adult leaving your home country with your kids to say, you know what, we're done. We need to go somewhere else. From Haiti to New York, didn't speak the language, didn't have a degree, but needed to be successful because of all these challenges. That really resonated with me. So I quit my day job. I had money, I had stuff, but correct, yeah. Yeah, so I quit. I was done. I was like, you know what, I'm done. And obviously family was like, okay, whatever. But the opportunity part is, yes, my in-laws had this property that they planted 5 acres of grapes for a farm deferral. So in Oregon, and I'm sure in some states, in order to get a tax break, you call it a farm. So you have to plant something where most of our neighbors plant Christmas trees. I joke, there's more one chicken farms out here than anything. But they had 5 acres of grapes, because of the location and the slope. But no one did anything with it or made wine. They sold the fruit in a few years, in the past, but it was kind of in disarray. But I was just looking around. I was up there one day looking around and said, I will make wine. Mind you, I didn't even drink either, So, you know what my plan B was going to be? I'm gonna make raisins if it don't work. Well, again, but for me, and I know I laugh now because wine raisins, they got seeds in them and all of that. But I was so detached from what the wine industry was, and the only thing that was driving me was if Pops did what he can do, I can make me some damn wine, regardless of the fact that I didn't drink, etc. A little bit of both. It's that immigrant hustle, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So even though I was looking at it as something lofty, you know what? I got some grapes here. I'm going to go ahead and do this. The idea of not making money wasn't ever in my head. The wine industry, its moniker is, in order to make a small fortune, you start with a large one, which is bananas. What industry allows that? So. And that is a great part of it, but that was my opportunity. I even to this day, this is year 12 now. And part of, again, my success was I wasn't passionate about the industry. Just something, because there's a lot of broke, passionate winemakers out there because the industry traditions make no sense. So even early on, I knew all of the challenges and I knew all of the stumbles. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this my way, though. And again, that's what early on got me started into this, to say that, yes, I can still be successful, even though everybody kind of laughed and chuckled, at the idea of, what do you mean you're going to make wine? Don't you know how exclusive, that idea of it is? I did have a family friend, I guess, who was mentor in the sense of he was that person like, oh, yeah, go ahead and make wine. When everybody looked at me like I was crazy. I give him shit now that, it's like, thanks, you should have just said no back then. But it was, and we weren't really friends. It was just the fact that it was a person associated with the industry was just like, sure, go ahead and do it. And I knew family was saying, sure, go ahead and do it out of, hey, he's going through some grief right now. Stop in a minute. But that was the first random, that actually said, sure, again, and him not knowing who I am, that was just that little bit of catalyst, that I needed in order to do that. There is a wine college about 30 minutes away from me, 45, that I started the wine program there, but I only lasted 3 months. School. I mean, I remember playing sick in kindergarten, not wanting to go. That just wasn't me in the sense of the formal education. I was a hands-on, put me in it, let me go get it, kind of cat. So yeah, no, it was a 2-year program. I lasted 3 months. I was like, all right. All of the wine people out there are going to probably hate me, but to me, no. Winemaking is not hard in the sense of, honestly, if you put grape juice in the glass, in a couple of weeks it'll be wine. Whether it's good or bad, that's indifferent. The fundamentals are pretty basic in the sense of what you do, the steps. Again, people ask me, when did I start? 2008. When did my first wine come out? In 2008. Again, I wasn't passionate about the industry. I didn't have this idea of, I'm going to practice for a couple of years before I release. That immigrant hustle kicked into me. It's like, how can I turn this thing over to make money in a year, kind of thing. So. Well, yeah, barrels. Now you're really digging. Mm-hmm. So for me, again, this goes to more personal stuff. I'm never proud. I'm never happy, and it's never good enough. It's one of those. Again, I go back to my childhood about not being good enough. To me, it didn't matter how I felt about it. This is what I needed to do to get it done. It wasn't flawed. Let's just say that. And what a lot of people don't realize in the wine industry, there's not one perfect wine. I don't care if this wine got tons of gold medals and points. If you don't like it, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So there wasn't really this measuring stick or a basic recipe that you're trying to duplicate. So early on, again, even now, I think I make solid, good, unflawed wine. But I've shifted everything, instead of the wine being the brand, to me being the brand. I knew I could always bet on me. And it is kind of funny when I think about it, because I never wanted to be locked in to my wine. I never wanted the wine to be what identified me, good, bad, and different, if that makes any sense. Because someone doesn't like the wine. If the wine was the brand, then that's a correlation to me or them not. I always separated me from the wine itself at the end of the day. The main thing, I've always felt that, like literally up until my 7th, 8th year. But what really changed that was when I hired a coach. Instead of where most people hire a mentor to be a better winemaker, I hired a coach to make me a better me. It goes back to the whole, like this is my coach's tagline, is own who you are. Eldridge Boussard, he's Mr. Own Who You Are. And that means owning who you are with your positive and your negative flaws. At the end of the day, how do you connect with people? Because we have like challenges and like things. If all I talked about was how great of a winemaker I am and technical in that sense, there's only a small population that could connect with me. But if I told you about, my loss, my tragedy, these things, these feelings that were evoked, I say tragedy evokes change. We all can connect in some way or somehow. And that was where I learned how to step out of the box. I am the brand. And even accepting that everyone wasn't going to be my customer. That's what allowed Abbey Creek to be the hip-hop winery of Northwest. That's how we were allowed to kind of do things my way. Instead of trying to fit into the industry, I took the industry and turned it over and made it my own, Money. Because before I was trying to sell wine. You could buy wine at the damn gas station in Oregon, and to me, that's the biggest flaw in the industry. Everyone's trying to sell wine. There's not enough wine drinkers out there. There's too many competing factors, as in price points and the idea of wine. So I decided, you know what? We joke, we call it, we sell love, magic, and moments. That's what people connect to. That's what people come back for at the end of the day. Because if it's about medals and accolades, someone else is always going to have more medals, more points, more accolades. Someone has a bigger budget for marketing and all of these other things. But for us, it was, I've got to get them to buy into me. Even if you check out my IG and all that, I'm always in overalls. And that began back in about 3 years ago. Oregon was celebrating 50 years of winemaking, and all they were talking about were the legacies and the pedigrees, and it wasn't me. And at that same time, customers would be coming in and saying, who's the winemaker? And when I say me, well, you don't have a vineyard, do you? Yeah, I do. And it was always this glare or this look of surprise. And it's not so much that they were being malicious. It was the fact that the industry as a whole painted the picture that I didn't look the part. So I decided, you know what, I'm a wine farmer, so I'm going to wear overalls everywhere I go, even to black tie events. And Now black tie overalls, like these are my fitted right now, but the button-down shirt and my tie and all of that. And the thing is, it started the conversation of, well, why are you wearing overall? And then I get to talk about this lack of diversity or equity in our industry that in other conversations might have been tense. But in the fact that I was rocking the overalls and it made it something for them to chuckle about and then start to think, well, you know, you're right. I never seen a black winemaker. I never heard of. And then that's when I decided to launch the documentary. So I produced the documentary, Red, White, and Black. Red, White, and Black. Correct. And the idea of that was my play on words as well with the flag, the red, white, and blue, the red, the white, the black, red, white wine. But it was to share my story, and as well as some other underrepresented minorities who, you know, get that same look when they talk about. I refer to Remy, who was a woman and a lesbian in my film. She still gets asked, does her husband make the wine? And why? Exactly, because of tradition, and tradition makes us lazy. But that's still not an excuse. So having those conversations and putting that out there in front and center is kind of the things that I've been doing. So,
Dream Drivers, what's up? It's summer, and I know we all are on the quest for the perfect beverage to quench our desire for refreshing. So here's the question. What have you always wanted to try? Is there something that has been a dream of yours, a flavor, a taste that you just really need to get at? Gold Peak Real Brewed is here to unleash your thirst for trying. Real brewed tea, real cane sugar, real delicious. From sweet tea, unsweetened tea, green tea, California raspberry tea, Georgia peach tea, lemon tea, lemonade tea. There are so many options to find what's best for you. And this summer, we need to try something new, try something brewed, because nobody wants to be dream driving with a dry mouth or thirsty. We need that fuel to be at our best for this ride. So take this as your sign to say yes, opt in, go for it. Because trying is what life is all about. Try Gold Peak. Hey Dream Drivers, you know I'm all about adventure and dream driving, so I want to let you know about family-friendly fun you need. This summer, Disneyland Resort invites you to celebrate soulfully at the happiest place on earth. Here are my picks of what you definitely want to check out. From June 1st to July 4th, you can enjoy Celebrate Soulfully offerings that coincide with Black Music Month. Disney California Adventure Park is offering live music, celebrating the sounds of doo-wop and Motown, and Downtown Disney District has the Soul of Jazz, an American adventure, a touring exhibit that illustrates the legacy and dynamic history of jazz. Y'all know I'm a foodie, so something I check out in Downtown Disney District is the Creole cuisine at Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen. And if you're not into that, discover new faves from Black-owned food trucks. There are so many ways to feed every part of your soul throughout Disneyland Resort this summer. Theme park admission and park reservations are required for park entry. Visit Disneyland.com for more details.
Nah, man, I was making money at 12 years old. You know, we flipping ice cream pops or whatever, you know. So traditional in its sense, yes, in the sense of, okay, I've got a business license, my name on that, but I was always in business, you know, yeah. Yeah. Personal as well. I mean, because it takes a shift in thinking, you know, that a lot, like I said, that same shift when I said that, you know what, everyone is not going to be my customer, so I don't need to bend over backwards for that dollar, you know, and it's the thinking, because industry, everything as a kid, you've heard the customer's always right, but what if it ain't your customer? You know, and especially when you're new, it's that fear of, but I need that money. They won't come see me, or I'll get a Yelp review. You know, all of this extra bullshit, you know, because the underlying thought is I need to be successful as not to be a failure. So I will, you know, take the integrity of, who you are because of what you thought you needed to do. But I always quote the Ghetto Boys, when I sit alone in my four-corner room staring at kids. There's those moments when you're in your own head, those are the ones that matter. And I never wanted to be in that moment knowing that I was full of shit, So the personal overall, literally, that was my click, my change. I joke about my coach now is everyone needs to have someone in their camp that doesn't care about how you feel. I pay him. I pay him well to be that one guy to not give a damn about my feelings. We talk about facts and feelings, and the first thing you do is you separate the two. Correct, and you never want to make judgments off of feelings. What are the factual things? Or if you're in your feels, being able to acknowledge, I'm in my feels right now. I'll get back to you, later. But literally, I even apply it to my home life, my relationship, my friends, everything. I literally pose that question whenever there's a deciding point or something happening at that moment. That's the myth of the industry, and also that's the bullshit and smoke and mirrors. Again, traditionally, people, you hear if you don't have a vineyard, you can't make wine. Right now, to plant a vineyard, you're looking at 30 to 40,000 an acre, and then you don't. Again, it depends on your production, right? Because each acre produces about a ton of grapes. And I'm talking about high-end grapes. You're looking at about a ton. Each ton only gives you about 2 barrels. That's only 600. Each barrel is 300 bottles. So that's only 50 cases, which you're not moving no weight. But again, it's that idea of you go find this property, you buy the land, you plant the vineyard, and then it takes about 5 years for any viable fruit, to come through. All of these things are what, keeps that whole moniker of, in order to make a small fortune, you start with a large one. Means spending all this money and you never make any back. Hindsight, I wouldn't have any land, anything. I've got 50 acres right now, and I've got 15 acres in fruit. There's tons of fruit available for sale. So things like these things, no one really talks to you about. But actually, I've got this program, a protege, that I'm coming up with. Is this woman who, her whole career has been, adult foster care. The brand is Stony Wines, so look for it. She approached me a couple of years ago. She wants to start her own label. So I built this program to where she could make wine and make her money as well as a profit in the same year. Correct. I mean, and it's basic math. She buys the fruit from me. She knows what she paid per ton. Any business is about cost of goods, right? So she knows what she paid per ton. I have my price to flip it for her. We just bottled it the other day, actually. So if she follows my model and sells these bottles by retail, she will make $3,000 to $5,000 profit in her first year. Well, no, indeed. And again, I mean, on paper, I'm not supposed to be successful. I make 1,500 cases a year. I do not sell to restaurants or stores or anything like that. Everything is direct to customer. It's funny. I was just in New York. I was on the panel for the Future of Everything Festival. And the moderator, her question was, well, sure, you sell direct to customer, so there's no middleman, but no one knows your name. I said, well, how am I at the Future of Everything Festival in New York City? I was listening to that, and everybody chuckled. And, it was like, you see, again, everybody's just thinking you just got to sell wine. I'm so much more than just my wine. I've decided to, I'm going to leverage my story and the tragedy. Yes, I'm Oregon's first Black winemaker. but it's more important that I'm not the last. So that's what I lead with. And I mean, I don't love the industry. I don't. I love what the industry allows me to do. And I'm leveraging all of the myths and the romanticism of what wine is to open doors. And even more importantly, bridging the gap. Yeah, we're the hip hop winery, and you would think millennials and people of color. I've got more baby boomer white folks in here that you see them bobbing their head to whatever, don't know why, because it just feels good. That's the thing, and that's what we have is our transparency. The word terroir is one in the industry, which refers to the soil, the climate where the grapes are grown. For us, our terroir is the space that we're in, that energy that comes from our customers, that are in the place when you walk in the door. So. Yeah, no, I always refer to Bob, the wine guy, that one dude in the office who's been everywhere and wants to tell you how to fucking drink. For me, at the end of the day, this is, again, why we do what we do. I want everyone, especially people of color, young and old, to feel comfortable in their wine choices. The wine industry is a lot of insecurity. It's all about why would you have the fancy sommelier come to your table to choose your wine bottle? So you can let your friends know that you and him have the same palate. No, this person has trained, X amount of years, spends tons of money to be a professional wine taster, a wine buyer, et cetera. And it's this idea of trying to show folks that, oh yeah, I've done that too. Or I get tons of them. Oh, have you been to France? Nope. Have you been to Italy? Nope. I don't make wine for those folks. I don't need that validation. Again, it's the difference when you decide that you're enough, then my wine doesn't matter, or my wine choice, etc. And that's why I had a couple of young brothers, young cats that, heard the story. They came in, and in the middle of it, they were like, oh yeah, we're doing that fancy stuff. I said, no, you're doing everyday regular people stuff. The industry is what's telling you that you don't belong or you don't fit in. That's that underlying exclusion, that people don't get, that's in the industry. Well, anybody could drink wine if you do this, and no. I shouldn't have to jump through your hoops in order to feel validated, about some wine. And the thing is, if you go to these other countries, and I've heard stories, it's no big deal in these countries because they drink wine every day with anything. Some of the best wine is the $3 wine that comes to the restaurant table like your bottle of water here in the States. So it's that idea of that. I don't want to use the word pretentious because it is, and that's the given. But it's this idea of entitlement that I've got to let you know. This is my status. So at the end of the day, but that was my biggest crutch in the industry, and even for me, it had to change because I was always trying to show you that I wasn't that, as opposed to just showing you who I am. Yes, it is. It's a. Yeah. Well, and that's actually part of the shift. So E40's got a brand. E40, Nicki Minaj. I know John Legend is partnered up with a brand as well. So yeah, there are a few. Even Google my man Andre Mack. He's in New York. Yeah, Maison Noir wines. Andre, he plays up to the hip hop. He's got OPP. Other people's Pinot Gris. He's got Love Drunk. So he was a '90s hip hop kid like myself. So he definitely. But not enough, again, for us to see mainstream wise, because why? They're already setting the tone of what we're going to drink. And it's funny. I got some comments because in the documentary I say, why we're not marketed to, because they think that we drink Henny, 40s and sweet wine. Because that's the idea, that's the stereotype that's out there. So they don't decide to me, at the end of the day, I want to take that same stereotype and have us feel comfortable drinking anything. Those are more customers for me at the end of the day. I'm trying to create my own customer brand as opposed to just following the small masses that the industry tells me I need to follow, at the end of the day. So it's about representation at the end of the day. How can I change the narrative? And I basically break it down to I'm trying to change the world by changing the game. And changing the game was, again, no one gave me anything. I had to do it myself. So I was like, I'm going to make my own movie. Up until 2016, the only president my kids knew was Obama. And when you think about when you really think about that representation and what their lives are going to be and do and different from now on. I get emails from grown folks, that hear the story, and it inspires and empowers them, and not even about doing wine, but just going into industries that, like that fluff you talked about, and I can do this too, again, why not? We can actually all do whatever the hell we want to do. It's just what are we willing to sacrifice to get those points, and that's what I'm trying to show and be a testament to. So that representation, and back to your previous point, and making money on top of that.
Hey, Dream Drivers. So you know how I start every show asking guests the same question. What inspired you as a child? What were your childhood dreams? I remember as a kid, a place I always wanted to visit was Disneyland Resort. Why? It always represented a place of dreams, a place of wonder, a place where imagination and creativity were put on a pedestal. It was just a magical and happy place. Well, guess what? Disneyland Resort can still be the place where you go to fulfill some of your childhood dreams. Disneyland Resort invites you to celebrate soulfully this summer at the happiest place on earth. And yes, you can bring the family too. There's just so many things and so many types of dreams you can put in motion. Let me give you a little taste. If you have little ones, you can inspire their own dreams by rediscovering and celebrating Simba's journey from timid cub to mighty king with Tale of the Lion King, a live stage show inspired by the Lion King. Think live music and dance inspired by the cultural roots of this timeless story. If you're looking for adventure and heroic encounters, visit Avengers Campus to train with the Dora Milaje and see Black Panther in person. Now, if music is your thing, from June 1st to July 4th, you can enjoy Celebrate Soulfully offerings that coincide with Black Music Month. Check out Disney California Adventure Park, where they will offer daily live music celebrating the sounds of doo-wop and Motown, or go to downtown Disney District and check out The Soul of Jazz and American Adventure, a touring exhibit that illustrates the legacy and dynamic history of jazz. Something about seeing the past can help plant some seeds for what you might want to do in the future. And y'all know I'm a huge foodie and used to want to be a chef as a kid, so I know I check out Downtown Disney District to enjoy some Creole cuisine at Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen or to try to find some new favorites from local Black-owned food trucks. There are many ways to feed every part of your soul and reactivate that inner child in you throughout the Disneyland Resort, making this summer the perfect time to visit. Remember though, theme park admission and park reservations are required for park entry. Make sure to visit Disneyland.com for more details and theme park tickets. Think to yourself, what childhood dream can I bring to life this summer at Disneyland Resort?
Well, the first thing was to second, and let's go back a little bit though about the generational wealth, and even taking it more. I don't want my kids to follow in my footsteps. I want them to do their own thing. I want them to know that they can start from scratch and do their own amazing, because that's where the bullshit of the industry came from, of the wine industry, from this pedigreed, oh, did your dad make wine or your granddad? And nah, none of that, and in a sense, I feel it's dismissing, the importance of what I did do, by always thinking, well, I didn't start it on my own because it's impossible, kind of thing. I don't want them feeling like they need to. Obviously, if they want to, that's a whole nother story. But again, I go back to that immigrant hustle. I go back to my parents' story of being those pioneers and trailblazers and stepping out, because nobody asked a plumber, are you going to do some generational wealth? That's still the idea of the bullshit that the wine industry wants you to think that because you're making wine, it's important. And, you have to pass it on down like it's a badge. At the end of the day, alcohol is poison, right? It kills people, and, so no one wants to talk about wine in that sense, but it is, we're just talking facts right now. For me, it's more important to show them that no matter what lofty dream that it seems, you can do that and make money. My coach had not an argument, but a discussion with some other dude was all about, well, I need to find this niche, so then I could get paid. And my coach was like, well, why don't you just do what you love and then find a way to make you money? Basic shit, again. So now it's about flipping that and thinking about, okay, how else can I, make, this successful and make this a career? And that's when I talk about the sacrifices, about going out of your norm. For me, it was being transparent. It was being vulnerable to letting people know of the tragedy of the past, which has brought me here to where I am today. No one likes that. You go to social media. Social media wasn't built on you talking about your flaws, except for those days that you want everybody to, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you, But for the most part, you put happy, fly shit, right? At the end of the day. But again, more people can connect to my flaws and my mishaps and my mistakes than any success that I throw out there, at the end of the day. But for me, that was that sacrifice. That was the sacrifice of being transparent, as to this is who I am, love me or leave me alone, sort of mentality and attitude, But that's where my success comes from. It's just vulnerable. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's funny because my winery used to be a church when I bought it. Yeah, I kid you not. So we be holding church up in here. Every weekend we bring close to 200 people a weekend who heard the story. I bring people who don't even drink. They just wanted to come take a picture or a touch. And how many of us, your everyday inspires and empowers others? That's powerful. But real talk, I had to own that. I knew I was the first Black winemaker 10 years ago. 2015 was when I decided, okay, I will wear this cape, and be the Superman or superhero at the end of the day. Yes, cape made, but yeah. But again, even about the overalls. So last year, I got a call from Carhartt. And I'm like, well, what's Carhartt calling me? They want a donation or something? What? And no, they were doing this campaign. Now, Carhartt's been making clothes for 140 years. Everybody knows their stuff is great. But for them to get more business or new faces, they need to start talking about the story of the people who wear their stuff. So they were on the West Coast and they Googled Black farmer. And my picture shows up and I'm in their overalls. Now I just signed a contract for a year as a brand ambassador for Carhartt. But these opportunities wouldn't have come if I didn't decide to sacrifice and own being this guy in overalls and having to share that story every time. There were days I didn't want to put my overalls on, but I made that my brand. People expect to see me in those. That's why there's tons of photos out there with me in my overalls. But just owning that truth turned around and turned this now into, I'm a brand ambassador with Carhartt, which, again, I think the hardest part about sacrifice, you think, okay, I sacrificed, where's my, Exactly. And I think, again, that's what we need to change, the way we think about that. It needs to be in what's the word? It needs to be true. It needs to be honest. If you can't sacrifice, just like your diet. All right, I'm doing Whole30 or keto or whatever. And in week 3 or 4, you're like, okay, I'm not seeing results. I'm going to stop. So again, but the beauty about that you're in control of all of this. And I employ people we invest in any bullshit in your business, but how many of us invest into us? And especially people of color, mental health is a big thing. On one end, when everybody sees, my gosh, Bertony is a hard worker, he's always got irons in the fire, I'm broken. My always pushing forward is because of my insecurities or fear as a young person of not being good enough. But that's also what makes me get more than that other dude, because he ain't grinded, and that's my grind. We dismiss all of that so much as, oh, that's just hustle. Nah, you're broken, but doesn't mean I'm fixed, but I accept why, I am the way I am, and that's where my success comes from it. So I'm just leveraging, these things or these issues that I feel I've had in order to make me successful at the end of the day. There were always those points. I'm only half amazing, so I have those moments. First and foremost is, your immediate circle. For me, it's my family, it's my wife, it's the people close to me. That was the first. But the other is my legacy, his pops. Unfortunately, it took his passing for me to truly get to these points of feeling like, I can do whatever, kind of thing. And there was a mission there. And for me, I can't let, even though everybody says, oh, your dad is great, he's proud of you and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, I think about a grown man at 30 years old taking his wife. My dad used to work on a ship that docked in Miami and got off one day and made his way to New York, sent for my mom and the other 2 kids. And then my sister was born, that allowed them to stay. I still don't know the catalyst. And we never had those conversations. And it's even to the point where I don't even know if I can ask my mom without getting her in her feels. I call it conversations we never had. And then, the real thing that makes me push is my 12 and 10-year-old. I'll be a fucking hypocrite. Look at them, and I'm trying to always tell them to keep pushing and basically do your times tables, And real talk is just thinking about them. And like I said, and myself, when I'm sitting by myself in my head, I can't accept the fact that I was full of shit or I failed or whatever. But to some extent, I do have the wherewithal to know if something ain't working either. Hey, this is broken. This is not making sense. It's time to leave it again. And you can apply that to relationships and everything. We always, I'm not a quitter. I never quit. What if that shit wasn't for you? So again, having that idea or thought, and I wholeheartedly always recommend any entrepreneur to have a coach. You have, and which coach, it all depends on you and what you need. But you need that person that you pay to tell you, what's up, at least what they see, you know. And that's my coach's superpower. When you can say a sentence and he'll break it down to what you actually said. You're like, nah, but I don't care what you meant. Words matter. This is what you said. And we need to, even pro athletes have sports psychologists and all of that. So it doesn't mean that you got to be rich in order to have somebody in your camp like that. But again, you need that one person who doesn't really care about your feelings, at the end of the day. To me, that's where more of the success is going to come from. Ooh, I have many. I have multiple superpowers. But my superpower is being able to connect with people. Again, you should see the diversity of the folks that come in here that wholeheartedly love and support us. Like I said, there's amazing wine all around me, but people intentionally come to where we're at because of a feeling, and I've always, but it's funny because that feeling was from a young man never wanting to be the angry black guy. So I've always turned it into a smile and not necessarily going against my grain to make you comfortable, but I've just always been able to connect. And it's funny because I'm an introvert at heart. Go out of your norm. So many of us say we want change or we want something different, and your actions and your words don't match. I want to lose weight, but then your actions are you're eating ho-hos, and it's again, and I don't want to sound crass, but it's just that simple. Making sure your actions and your words are matching, and what are you doing in order to get that to happen? And a big thing that business and entrepreneurs, just people in general, relationships. Relationships are key, not networking. Networking is only this ploy. I cannot stand the term networking. I hate networking events. First thing you do when you go to a networking event, what do? You put a badge on that says, my name is. So now everyone's just looking at, nope, don't want to talk to him. Or if industry is not a like industry, you're not going to bother. No, that old school connecting and relationships. To me, that is where the success comes from at the end of the day. Again, and they don't teach black folks this. White folks have been making deals out of relationships all day. But they don't necessarily like each other. They see how can they leverage, and again, people see the word leverage as something negative. No, you're leveraging me, I'm leveraging you. It's a positive thing. The bad part is you being leveraged, in a way that you don't appreciate. That's a whole nother story, but relationships are key. Go out there and you have no idea who that person next to you, is, and things like that. And again, I think what faults us is we're transparent in the sense of we're gonna keep it real. I don't fuck with nobody, who doesn't make me feel X, Y. Get out your feels. You got to get out your feels and start making those relationships at the end of the day. Because if it's about business, then relationships matter. Correct. Yeah. Correct. And then even, I don't like the word collaborate. It's too one-sided. And I'm just speaking from experience. I've collaborated with many people that didn't hold their end of the collaboration up. And a lot of that is actually my fault by not putting that out there, is not putting out my expectation of what. So I use the word partnership. Partnership now, okay, well, shit, I guess I got to do something too, huh? Yeah. And it's not a monetary thing equal, but there's expectations to me, I think, when you start with the word partnership. It's collabo, and again, I fault the hip-hop world in the sense of these cool-ass terms and phrases that we all think, are dope, but I really know the definition of the expectation of each one of those. YOLO is my worst. You only live once. No, you live every day. You die once. So this idea that you only live once, so I'm going to do whatever, and about correct, and that's the intent. I get what they were saying, live your life today, kind of thing, but it lends towards the reckless side of living your life. But partnership is key again. But then finding the right partners. Being okay turning down certain partnerships because if you can't leverage them, if you want to be friends, let's be friends. But business-wise, if you're talking about collaboration and partnering, there needs to be an end goal. And again, that's not crass, and that's not being malicious. It's just being a business person. You should not partner with anybody and especially somebody who's going to affect your character. Your character brand is more important than anything else out there, at the end of the day. So your brand, but again, you remember that when you actually attach you to the brand. When you're the brand, you think about, hold up, who am I partnering with? Who am I collaborating with? Do I want this person's thoughts, ideologies, etc., just because it looks good on business, on paper? Correct. If doesn't because of where you want your brand to be or the words you speak, being able to partner up with somebody just because it's a great money deal, but if it's not going to influence your platform, why do that as well? So it takes a lot of, but again, relationships and talking it out. And like I said, and I know I sound like a springboard for coaches, but we all need that one person, who's going to be able to, go ahead and pull you out of those lanes to see things. Sure. More people just in general? It's open-ended. It all depends on what you want from it. Again, just like any other industry. Should more people make pens? It all depends what you want. I want the smoothest writing pen ever. Again, I'm an accidental winemaker. So I'm even changing that term. I'm a changemaker. And that's what the wine industry allows me to leverage. It allows me, and then on business side, so I'm a keynote speaker as well. So I get to go and talk about essentially how you're enough, and you can do X, Y, Z. And then at the reception, guess whose wine they're going to drink? My wine. So I leverage that as a business as well. But it's all about what you want out of it. And if you want to be the first or whatever, then you got to decide, okay, I'm going to take being this representation of this industry or tech or whatever, every industry, So, but again, everyone can't do that. Everyone's not built for this. Some people just want to go punch the clock and go home and they're content. I hear that a lot, especially in Oregon, because yes, Portland's on paper is the whitest city in America. But where else could I be the most impactful at? When you think about that, again, we all talk about tokens and a token being negative. When you go to Vegas, you want those tokens, don't you? So why don't you put the value on that token? Because at the end of the day, someone needs to see me here. We're all influencers, and it's up to us how we influence. So someone had to see me in the whitest city, in America. But like I said, and then it's not just creating the most impact for the people of color who see me. I'm also creating impact on the population that's out here, the white folks, whoever, in their towns or in their spaces to see. So it's twofold, but that's that bridging the gap side I talked about, as well. So. Oh, that I'm still growing. I'm always in drive. I hate the word plateau. I feel you're either getting better or you're getting worse. But I look around and it's funny because I just brought on literally this year 2 associates. I've done the first 10 years pretty much by myself. And I mean, vineyard work and everything. And I asked, I'm like, how in the hell did I do this? But I still don't let myself revel in it. I call myself, I don't celebrate, I don't feel down. I'm just even keel. I ride the middle a lot, at the end of the day. But no, when I look around and we're about to open up a second location, in downtown Portland. Yeah, in Oregon. But in downtown now, in our downtown area, that happens in October. So all of these opportunities and things that, are in front of us, I put in the work. It actually feels good in a way, the fruition, because all of my life has been keep moving and not being content and switching and flip-flopping. As opposed to, I still flip-flop here, but I'm still in the wine industry. So I found an industry that allows me to flip-flop and change the game. So I'm making movies, I'm writing a book, which all goes back to me making wine. So I finally found that angle that'll allow me to be 10 different things under one umbrella, so that's kind of where I'm my proudest at. You need a coach. Every basketball team, every hoop team, there's a coach, there's a captain. You need a coach, and not so much a mentor. Like I said, a mentor is all about you duplicating what they did. I want somebody to make me a better me at the end of the day. So sometimes that coach, whatever advice they give you to make you a better you may not be better for the business. So again, you have to decide where's the value at. Ooh, you need to be honest with yourself. It's easy to tell anybody whatever bullshit, but you need to be honest with you. So having that relationship with yourself is number one too. Oh no, I would put honest and relationship with yourself in the same thing. The third one would be balance. You need balance. That's where I struggle the most. In the sense of taking care of myself, my own mental health, whatever it means, balance with my family. Again, it'd be great for me to say, oh yeah, I'm doing this for my family, but then I don't see them, I don't spend the time, go to the basketball games, I don't, So balance is key. Because at the end of the day, what are you really doing all of this for? It's all for naught. So the second and the third tie into each other, so being honest about, the expectations or why you're doing things, and then the balance of keeping it all in check. Yeah. Well, hey, you see, you. I love that. Love that. That's growth in its own. So revel it. Easiest is going to be abbeycreekvineyard.com. That's ABBEY, Creek and Vineyard, VINEYARD.com. And it has all the tabs for the documentary, wine. It gives you more in-depth stories about myself, the changemaker as well. So it gives you more of that copy. I ship to about 32 states. Alcohol is tricky. So I cannot ship to Jersey. Jersey, when we ship to New York, can't ship to New York. Baby, this box came for you. Yeah. Right on, Raina. You have a good one there.
Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your own community, your own network. It really does help when you guys are pushing it on your social media platforms, whether you're using Instagram stories, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, sharing the link via text, via email, whatever. Please, please get this story out to one more person this week. I think Bertony's story is very unique. And when I first heard about him, I know he was somebody who'd be perfect for this show because I know that his insights and his wisdom was one that would inspire and encourage you guys listening in. So just pay it forward like I ask you every week. Make sure that you're subscribed wherever you're listening so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. And if you're listening in specifically on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. Those ratings do mean a lot. Listen, if you think you may have left one, just go back into your Apple Podcasts app and check. And you can always leave us a 5-star rating as well. I always appreciate that. And remember, if you want to see this interview video, then just go to dreamsanddrive.com/videos, or you can search Dreams and Drive on YouTube. I'm going to see what you guys' reaction is to seeing this video. Like, it really is not the most professionally produced, but it's just the raw cut of how I look when I'm interviewing people via Skype. And I think it's also just a testament to, like, you don't have to have everything together. Everything doesn't have to be polished. And I know you got to start from step one. You got to start somewhere. So this is step one for me. I want to do more video interviews, but this is just where I'm starting at for now. So give me some feedback. Let me know what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy. And I'm definitely going to be working on getting more video content to you guys. And remember, tradition makes us lazy, as Bertony said. And I want you guys to think about how you can push yourselves to not just accept what you know, to do something different, to really step outside your comfort zone and to shake things up in your industry, your niche, whatever it is, because that's where innovation comes, and that's where you'll see a surprise. You'll definitely see surprises, and you'll see blessings come your way. All right, so keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again. Bye.